Hello, YouTube. It's
Hello,
me.
YouTube.
It's Ladies' Day here. Me and the ladies. We're talking college football. Penn State, Ohio State. Don't know why Katie didn't like that. You guys are ladies,
Ladies' nights. I don't know. I think of strip clubs when I hear ladies' nights.
Katie's
and these two will be stripping. So it is unnecessary roughness. Like, subscribe, enjoy, comment.
Comment your biggest upset for the week.
All right. Hello. It is unnecessary roughness. Barstool's college football show, brought to you by Casey. Tell them.
high noon hard seltzer. Katie's got the big peach in her hand. Katie's sitting next to me today. The big peach. Don't laugh.
She finished the sentence the right way.
I did. The game day pack is sitting here. Black cherry, pear, cranberry, and grapefruit. We love the game day pack. These, I know we've talked about it a million times. The tall boys, the peach with the resealable tops are just absolutely epic because at tailgates, even at your own home, like when you're sitting on the couch and like you stand up to cheer or you're mad or you got to even just go get something from the
Or
fridge.
you're just clumsy.
Or you're just clumsy. You kick it over and then your whole day is ruined because you have to clean it up. Not with these high noons. They've got the tequila, they've got the vodka, and I'm going to keep teasing it. The new flavor apparently is the best flavor possible.
Better than peach.
I've heard. Listen,
I'll believe it when I see it.
I'll believe it when I see it too, but the people who have tasted it that I talked to this weekend, they said without me asking, they said it's actually better than the peach. And I said, are you just saying that to me because you know how much I love the peach? They're like, no, we love the peach and it's actually better.
So you might
We'll
need
see.
a new flavor to bathe in.
Well, I still haven't gotten to bathe in the peach. Anyways, that's a good... Remind me to talk to Brandon Content Rob. High Noon, we love you. They're the best. Brandon Walker, I know that you didn't have a name for last weekend, but I'm going to ask you every single week on our preview episode, do you have a name for week 8 of college football?
No. And I'll tell you why. I look at this week.
Shit.
And this is going to foster a little bit of discussion first before we really dive into things. Because I think this week has a clear and obvious and unanimous number one game.
Mm-hmm.
Some weeks have two, some weeks have three, some weeks don't have any. This one has one huge big game above all else. Now, Alabama, Tennessee is also this weekend. Come on, Brandon.
Michigan State, Michigan.
Duke, Florida State,
Oregon,
Michigan,
Utah,
Duke, Florida
USC.
State, Utah, USC. So those are all this week. But obviously the big game is Ohio State and Penn State at noon. Big noon kickoff at 11 a.m. Central Time, 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific. Well, so my question was, before we go any further, I think I've asked this question, what time would you like your team to play that day? But from another perspective, as a general college football fan, you have the noon window, the 3:30 window, and then 6 to 7 p.m. at night, prime time. Where do you like the biggest game of the day to be held?
As just a general fan or somebody that has to do a podcast at midnight?
As a general fan.
Those are two different things. As a general fan, I think starting at noon is my favorite.
So
if I'm sitting at home watching games, having the biggest game of the week starting at noon, and you wake up in the morning, regardless of if you have to get up early or not, you wake up and you know that the biggest game of the day is going to kick off that day of sitting on the couch, that's awesome to me.
On the other hand, though, does that ruin the rest of the day, that the big fireworks?
So I'm 44 years old, and I've been watching football my whole life, college football my whole life, and I was kind of taught or raised in an era where 11 o'clock in the SEC was when we got the Jefferson Pilot game, which was usually like your fourth or fifth best teams in the SEC playing the fifth or sixth best team. It was like that's when Kentucky played Mississippi State a lot. It's when South Carolina and Arkansas always played. And then you would have the marquee huge game at 2:30, and then you have the secondary games at 6 o'clock. However, a couple of years ago, when Fox decided to go all in on Big Noon Kickoff and said, we're going to start putting our biggest games there, I think it works. I think it works tremendously. I think having that big, huge game at noon sets the tone for the rest of the day. And even though you say it could ruin the rest of the day, I get the thinking behind that. But to me, it sets the tone, and the rest of the day is better because of how good you started. I remember last week. Last week was the worst noon slate I've ever seen. It was god awful. And I was thinking, like, at 2 o'clock, I was like, just get to the next window so we can have some actual college football. And this is the opposite of that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm older. I don't know if it's because like I'm just awake earlier than normal, but I like having that first game being really big. And even though we for people that do this for a living, or the people that just want to watch all day, like you're going to be watching all day regardless. So why not start the day with a really great game and then hope that the primetime game is great? Now, obviously, if you're going to the game as a fan, no one wants to get up earlier to go tailgate and do all of that every single week, which is why I do think the stigma around like right now when A&M gets the 11 o'clock kick, it's like, oh, another 11 o'clock kick, like got to get to Kyle early. Like that's fine. Sitting at home, start my day off awesome. Start it off with a bang.
Yeah, and I guess I should take this time right now to mention something we haven't mentioned yet. It's me and the ladies today. Jack texted us this morning and said he had a stomach bug. He wasn't going to be able to make it. So that's why Jack is not here. I'm here with the ladies. I'm, of course, in Chicago in this fucking dungeon. So if I sound or look bad, I apologize. We're doing the best we can. Next week, I should be in my new setup in my own studio. So we'll see.
Next week, the new office is open?
It's opening Monday.
So
Wow.
November 1st.
No. Monday, October 23rd is what is the date we've been told over and over again. So
Does that mean that the shows that I do in Chicago will be in the new office that week?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you're in the studio.
Yeah, but we're moving the studio. Like, I'm flying to Chicago today to do it at the studio. Well, tomorrow, but we're flying today. Regardless, that is apparently done at the end of October.
Oh,
I don't know.
We'll see.
Find
I
out.
don't know. I don't know about that. All I know is the priority shows are moving next week, and that's the Yak and PMT, and then mostly sports.
Who's gonna be the
Yes.
first one to dunk?
Not me is my prediction.
Also, so priority shows are the Yak, PMT, and Brandon Walker.
Correct. And I'm also
Okay.
on the Yak case.
I know. I'm just joking. No, I assume that because right now Advisors, College Football Show, and Pro Football Show are all in a remote studio. I would assume those eventually move to the new office so we don't have to pay for the remote studio, would be my guess.
Would think
I
so,
would
yeah.
assume so.
Yes.
Okay. So, obviously, we're going to talk about Penn State, Ohio State at length in a minute, and we'll get into our categories. But before we do that, I got a little bit of news to get into. Yeah. So, Shane Beamer broke his foot. Shane Beamer broke his foot. South Carolina head coach Shane Beamer, who's not having the best season, they lost to a pretty average Florida team the other day at home, 41-39. Gave up 400 yards to Graham Mertz somehow. Anyway, they lost, and after the game, and a frustration, he kicked something and broke his foot. Now, I think a lot of sports media is like, this is a leader of a big-time football program. This is a guy that's in charge. He shouldn't be doing this. I'm just going to be honest, Casey. My first reaction was like, coaches, they're just like us. Like this humanizes him to me. It normalizes him. Like I've kicked things when I hit a bad shot in tennis or something, or any sport. I might, like if I'm playing golf and I shank one, I fucking slam the club down sometimes out of anger. So why wouldn't a guy whose entire livelihood depend on this get mad and kick something every now and then? It humanized him to me.
It not only humanizes him, because I do agree with that, it also shows you how much he cares. Now, do I think it's really stupid to kick something hard enough to break your foot? It's like when I see men punch brick walls when they get mad. I think it's pretty stupid and buffoonish. However, you can argue that means you have passion. That means you care. You don't want your coach to go home and be like, well, whatever, throw your hands up in the air. I don't really care. Kick back, open a beer, be like, I guess we'll try again next week. You want your coach to be mad enough to kick things. I would just advise, it's usually mostly men, stop trying to kick or punch something that will break your body, because that's pretty stupid.
Okay, well, no. First of all, no. Have you ever hurt your hand or foot hitting or kicking something out of anger?
Yes.
I've come close to breaking my hand on walls.
Yeah, see, okay, yes, definitely. However, you know how hard and I don't know what he kicked. Do we know exactly what it was?
It's just something.
Do you know how hard somebody has to kick something to break their foot? Like, if we're talking a toe, like, that's another thing, too. I'm like, are we talking about, like, the main bones?
He doesn't need surgery, but he's, like, in pain.
I do think it not only humanizes him, which is great, it makes him obviously care a ton. Now, South Carolina fans are probably like, wow, this guy really gives a shit. Like, he's willing to put his body on the line. It's also stupid to kick things that'll break your foot.
You could argue it either way. Exactly.
No, I think it's one of those things within the fan base. Like if you're winning and you kick something, you've got fire and passion. If you're losing and you kick something, you're a loser, and you don't need to be losing.
I did see someone say it's not Cocktober, but it's Broketober.
Broketober. Wait, so South Carolina fans are making
I
fun
don't
of
know
it?
what South Carolina fans are saying.
I'm gonna be. I can put this now. First of all, I told Katie this when I walked in. I was a little bit late walking in the studio because I got stuck talking. Not stuck. That was mean. I was talking to Frank the Tank, and when Frank gets going, sometimes. Yeah. What'd you say?
Got stuck talking to Frank.
But no, I love Frank, but I was on my way. Anyways, he asked me. He said, "Does A&M ever think about calling Jimbo Dumbo?" Which I had not heard before, and I was like, Frank, that's actually a really good point. Maybe if I heard that Jimbo Fisher or Dumbo Fisher, according to Frank the Tank, went home after all the losses he's had, I'll say maybe the Alabama one was most frustrating, and kicked a wall hard enough to break his foot, I might be back in on him.
It's like, good.
I might be back in on him. Not just because the man's in pain, but I'm like, oh, he actually gives a shit that he's losing. Because if your coach doesn't give a shit, which I don't think he cares near as much, then you're like, okay, well, he's not feeling the pain the fan base is feeling. Shane Beamer is physically feeling the pain that South Carolina fans are feeling. I think I'd be in on it.
All right, before I get to Dabo, because we got some more South Carolina coaching news. So Dabo said some things, which stop me if I've said that one before. Before I do that, though, I got to tell you, if you want to go to a game this weekend, I got the hookup for you. It's game time. Game time, the ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. This, of course, is a sports show. So this weekend, if you want to go to Ohio State or Penn State or Tennessee, Alabama, USC, and Utah, any of these games, and you wake up Saturday, oh, my goodness, I don't have tickets. Game Time is going to have the best prices late. They've cracked the code on that. They're going to have great last-minute tickets, flash deals. They got zone deals. Easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to kickoff. Right up to kickoff at noon on Saturday in Columbus, Ohio. And even an hour after it started sometimes. You can find exclusive flash deals, sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference.
110.
110. That's more than 100.
Brandon, we were talking earlier about what time as a fan, if you're sitting at home, you want games to start. You know what is an underrated thing about when you're living in a college town or you're close to a college town and you've got a bunch of friends coming in and you're like, are we going to watch the game at home? Are we going to tailgate? Are we going to go to a bar? Or are we going to go to the game? Like that, getting to make that decision every Saturday was always a fun thing. And now Game Time makes it so much easier because you could just be all sitting around having a beer or a mimosa or Bloody Mary or whatever, high noon, and say, I think I want to go to the game. Game Time can do it.
Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code RUFF for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code RUFF for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. Before we get to the Ohio State Penn State game, Dabo was and this is kind of humanizing to me as well, but it's coming from Dabo, it does seem disingenuous because he is a disingenuous guy.
Allegedly, in your mind.
No, he is.
Allegedly, in your mind.
Dabo was asked about expectations and bandwagonism and stuff like that, and he said, we're at a point where if you don't go undefeated, you are losers, you're terrible. And that is just such a terrible mindset. Honestly, maybe we need to lose a few games and lighten up the bandwagon. Sometimes the bandwagon can get a little too full. Now, on one hand, this is not something you want your head football coach to be having to say in October.
No.
You don't want your football coach saying, oh, I'm glad we lost, because it lightens the load a little bit. Not a winning combination of words there from Dabo Swinney. On the other hand, we have entered a time, not only in college football, but in like American society and sports society, where if you're not undefeated and you're not the best player and the best team in the sport, you're a loser. You're an idiot. You're an asshole. You're like, social media just destroys you. So he's right. He is right. But also, does Clemson's head football coach, who's won 2 national titles in the last 7 or 8 years, need to be saying this during a football season?
There are multiple things at play here. I agree with you on he shouldn't have to say this. The first half of this statement, I was on board with. Like, I was like, you know what? It is ridiculous that if you are such a good program where you have won national titles, multiple national titles like he has, and then you lose a couple games, you're called losers and idiots and assholes and whatever. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that to me is just a spoiled fan base. However, to then follow it up and say, maybe we should lose a few games to lighten up the bandwagon, that's where he lost me. It's like, no. You do not go out and ever say, we need to lose in order for people to have lower expectations of us, because that is not what anybody wants to hear. I don't care if you're a perpetual 4-8 team or if you're a national title contender every year. You never want your head coach to say, maybe we should lose a few games to lighten up the bandwagon, because what that's essentially saying is, well, we only care about the fans who are going to ride with us even when we start losing. You want to care about all your fans. Even if you don't want a bandwagon, which I don't know why you wouldn't, you don't say that. Like, that's where I was like, Dabo, stop talking. Like, you know when someone starts talking and you want to take the words back? Like, Stop it with, it shouldn't be this way if we're called losers because we lose a couple games. Just shut up right there.
Dabo's in a unique spot because he's dealing with the backlash from a spoiled fan base, but he's the one that spoiled them. So, like, it's like he's got these massive expectations that he created by being so great. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of fighting back on the expectations that he made. So it's like a vicious circle there in Clemson. Like he is ultimately right. Like, when you lose, I don't think fans, like fans of Clemson or fans of anybody, I don't think when you lose, fans say, "Oh, we lost, man. We need to get better. That sucks. I wish we had won." They say, "Fire everybody. Cut this guy. This guy's terrible. Get a new recruit. You're terrible. You're awful. God damn it. Does Dabo still have it?" So, like, there needs to be more reason in college football, but good luck. That ship sailed long.
Well, that's never going to happen. But it is that we've talked about this at Barstool, I feel like a million times, regardless of what sport it is. It is the argument of, is it worse to be like the Patriots fans are going through it right now, where you've been at the top forever and you expect to be at the top, and then when you're not, like, you're devastated or heartbroken? Or is it better to be a team that every year you just have mediocre expectations? Now, obviously, anybody's going to say you want to be a team that wins, but what happens when you're so used to winning? Like, does it hurt more? Does it hurt more when you lose? And what we're seeing with Clemson fans is they're clearly not handling this well. But if Dabo didn't set those expectations, he would have been fired a long time ago. Like, if he wasn't winning and being what he is, he wouldn't still be the coach at Clemson. So it's a hamster wheel. They're never going to figure it out. I just wish he wouldn't have said maybe we should lose some games to lighten the bandwagon. There's no way coming back from that.
To those Georgia fans, to those Alabama fans, to those Ohio State fans, to those Clemson fans who say, well, it hurts more when we lose because we win so much. It hurts more when we lose. It means more when we lose. As someone who loses a lot, fuck you. Fuck you. I would much rather have winning seasons constantly with the occasional bump in the road than just live on a bumpy-ass road all the time. Okay.
As somebody who loses a lot, I would agree with you. However, if you go into it every year just being like, well, we're probably not going to win the national championship, your heart doesn't get broken the way that maybe it does if you think you're going to actually win it.
But yeah, right. when you doubt and you have lower expectations, you get shit on for not believing in your team.
Well, there's a difference, Katie, because we're in the middle of the season. Your team is undefeated.
Undefeated, okay?
Undefeated. That's different.
You should have got on board way before you got on board. Don't put your stuff out on us. Don't do that.
Don't do it.
It's not my fault. I'm holding up the podcast win record.
Did you see that meme, by the way, Brandon, that she posted?
No.
It's a boulder, and it has A&M's logo on it, Mississippi State logos on it, and UConn's logo on it. And then there is a man holding this boulder up wearing a North Carolina logo, and it is...
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yeah.
Not
tough.
all heroes wear
tough.
capes.
All right.
It's tough.
So, the big game this week is in Columbus, Ohio. That is where Penn State and Ohio State play. Penn State and Ohio State. So, Casey, this being the first of a 4-part war to determine the Big 12, the Big 10. So you got this game, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Michigan. What am I? Is it 3? Oh,
3. It's 3.
Math is hard.
No, you've got Ohio State, Penn State,
yep.
Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State, Michigan. Yeah, 3 games.
Okay,
there you go. That was way too hard.
This is the first of 3 games to determine who's going to be the playoff contender in the national, or at least one of them, the lead dog in the Big Ten. This is the first time we see one of these 3 teams get together. It's the best Penn State team in a while. Ohio State, I can't say it's the best Ohio State team in a while, but it's a good enough Ohio State team to be probably a national title contender. So, Casey, my question to you, if I ask you to sum this matchup into just a few words on Saturday, what's the biggest thing about this game?
Ohio State has been a problem for James Franklin. He cannot beat Ohio State. It doesn't matter who's the head coach. He is 1-8 against the Buckeyes in his tenure at Penn State. And I think that that's the biggest thing for me. I don't care who's on the – I mean, we're going to talk about the actual matchup, but James Franklin cannot beat Ohio State thus far.
Yeah, but it's a little bit of Kirby Smart and Georgia-ish to me, where people like me were saying Kirby will never win, he'll never win, he'll never win. Well, nobody ever wins until they win, right?
Yeah,
so
it's fair.
Also, another probably a better comparison is Jim Harbaugh at Michigan was what against Ohio State until he finally broke through, and now he's got the upper hand. So it is possible to break through for
it
James
is.
Franklin. I think he has the quarterback. I think he has the team to do it. Now, you ask me what this game's going to boil down to. I think it's defense. I think this is going to be a slugfest, a war. I know that Ohio State has Kyle McCord. They got Marvin Harrison. They have multiple running backs. They've got a good offense. Penn State has good running backs. They've got Drew Aller. But I think these defenses are very good. In 6 games, Ohio State's given up 58 points. In 6 games, Penn State's given up 48 points. Like, Penn State has 2 shutouts on its record. One against was the UMass?
Iowa.
And then one against Iowa, which I don't know if that counts. But, these are very, 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 very good defenses. And for Ohio State, that's kind of a new thing. Like this is not a team that's used to being led by their defense. However, their defense is worthy this year of being that. So, if Ohio State's to come out of this thing undefeated and still in control of the Big Ten, I think it's because their defense holds Drew Aller to like 10 points, 14 points. I think that's possible.
It is weird to be sitting here talking about Ohio State's defense before their offense is the key here, but that's what this case is, because not only is it Ohio State's defense, is what does Drew Aller look like? And yes, they obviously have played very well thus far. They played West Virginia, Delaware, Illinois, Iowa, Northwestern, and UMass. They haven't really played a crazy defense yet. They haven't played somebody where you're like, all right, we talk about Michigan having to prove it. Ohio State's already played Notre Dame. Like, Penn State really hasn't played anybody yet either. So they played a harder schedule than Michigan. But what does Drew Aller look like? What is this guy that's supposed to be the piece for Penn State and James Franklin to get over the hump of beating Ohio State, over the hump of beating Michigan? What does he look like against an Ohio State defense that is much better this year? That is the key matchup to me.
Yeah, and it's both. I think it goes both ways because Penn State's defense is also very good. As one of the best corners in the country. And this is Kyle McCord's first big game in the shoe, first huge, gigantic game against a big-time Big Ten opponent, and it's Drew Aller's first big-time road trip. So these quarterbacks will be tested. Whichever quarterback passes the test of the defense is probably going to win. I love Penn State's chances to win this game. But regardless, I think this game is like a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. I think it's 17-14, 14-10, something very close. And one play in the last 5 minutes might determine who is going forward as the undefeated team in the Big Ten. I think it's a phenomenal game, a phenomenal noon kickoff. I'm very excited about this game.
One of the arguments, Katie, that we had going into this season, which I feel like we all went back and forth, but it was out of the 3 teams out of the Big Ten that we expect, Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State, regardless of how you feel about J.J. McCarthy, going into the season, Michigan knew what they had at quarterback the most set, I guess, because obviously he played last year. This game, to me, is like, all right, we're going to see exactly how Drew Aller looks. We do know what Kyle McCord looked like because he did play at Notre Dame at night, so that's obviously a very hard atmosphere to play in. But now we're going to really get to see which of these teams feels better about who they have starting at quarterback.
No, I would 100% agree. Like, you kind of had them versus Iowa, but I don't care how many points you put up. But if it's versus Northwestern and UMass, that's just not impressive. Like, this is the first time is Drew Aller the guy.
Right. And I think that Penn State fans are surely hoping that, because whether it's fair or not, Sean Clifford just catches a lot of shit for what it looked like when he was playing these big teams.
Okay, so who do you think wins Saturday?
I think Ohio State wins. I do. I think Ohio State wins. I think it's going to be very, very close. This whole like round robin of these three teams playing is going to be awesome. But I think that Ohio State's defense is going to be able to slow down Drew Aller enough. And maybe this is just because I've seen Ohio State play in a really big game this year. And regardless of what Notre Dame did at the end of that game to absolutely just lose it, they've proven that they are a very good team. Penn State has looked very good, but I just think Ohio State has a little bit of the edge thus far.
Hey, what do you think?
Pretty much the same. I would not be surprised if Penn State does it, but I think it's I'm not going to believe it until I see it from James Franklin. I think he has the pieces for it, but I just think Ohio State has been there, done that. Just with this big time in the history, I trust Ohio State more than I trust Penn State.
Has James Franklin ever beaten Ohio State and Michigan in the same season? I don't think so.
2016, what did they do? Who did they lose to in 2016 when they
Didn't they lose to Ohio State?
In 2016, he beat
that's when he
State.
beat Ohio
State. He lost to Michigan then.
I'm
right?
It up.
I don't think he's beaten both of them in the same season.
11-1. Who'd they lose to that year? I can't remember. Anyway,
I feel like that's never happened. And like you said, it's never happened until it happens. But he's been there for 10 years, and it just feels like these humps. And maybe I should say Penn State's going to beat Ohio State because I think they're going to lose to Michigan, because I still think Michigan's the best team in that division. I don't know, but this is a very exciting part one of the Big Ten East.
What are your thoughts, Brandon? You said Penn State?
I think Penn State's going to win. I'm not going to bail out on my preseason. If you remember, I picked Penn State to win the national title. So I picked them to win the Big Ten East, and I'm going to pick them to win this game, although I think Ohio State's very good, and Ohio State winning wouldn't shock me. And Ohio State winning doesn't eliminate Penn State, and Penn State winning doesn't eliminate Ohio State. There's a world where all three of these teams, where the home team wins every single one of these games, where Ohio State wins in Columbus against Penn State. Penn State wins in Happy Valley against Michigan, and Michigan wins in Ann Arbor over Ohio State.
So in 2016, their one loss was to Michigan, and Penn State was ranked 7th, Michigan was ranked 10th, and Michigan beat them 49-10.
Yeah.
Unless it's a blowout. I think, assuming everything's within 7, yes. But I think if the team goes out, wins by 21, then all bets are off with, you're out of the running.
No, I don't think anybody goes out of the running. I think it'll be 58-0, and nobody goes out of the running because you have the opportunity to beat both these teams. If they lose, have a chance to beat Michigan later to get right back in it.
And end up in Indianapolis. That's where the divisions are so lopsided, because they could lose this game by 1,000,000 points. They could end up in Indianapolis, and they're going to beat whoever's in the West.
I think they can definitely come back. I think keeping the locker room together after that kind of loss is going to be really hard.
I'm excited about it. I'm so excited about it.
Gear up for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. They've got durable frames and crystal clear optics for all outdoor adventures. With an extensive array of styles and colors, you're bound to find the perfect pair of Shady Rays sunglasses. I like a good, strong black pair of sunglasses, but they got tortoiseshell, they got silver, they got all kind of colors and models and everything at Shady Rays.
Yeah, I love Shady Rays. I have been saying this every time we talk about Shady Rays. I'm going to go out on a limb and say very, very few companies that will allow you to purchase something, you get it, and if you don't like it, it's not just like, oh, you return it and you get your money back. No, you return it, and then they say, now pick another one. Yes, obviously returns happen, but Shady Rays is like, no, we're going to even double that down. We're going to make sure you actually like the fit on your face, and then we're going to give you the same deal for the other pair that you choose, and that's huge because they're all polarized. And, of course, they look like they're way more expensive than they are. And who doesn't love that? So Shady Rays will work with you to make sure it's the perfect fit. It's not going to break your bank. They're polarized. And we're giving everybody a deal, Brandon.
Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out an amazing deal for this season. Go to ShadyRays.com. Use code Roughness for 50% off 2 pairs of polarized sunglasses. Again, go to ShadyRays.com. Use code Roughness for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. I guess up next we go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Tennessee is going to play Alabama. Alabama with the one loss early to Texas. They have righted the ship. It's been a little rocky at times. Only a 3-point win over Arkansas, but an impressive road win against A&M. Trailed at the half against Ole Miss, but was impressive in the second half against Ole Miss. So Alabama has shown it in flashes. Tennessee has the one disappointing loss on the road to Florida, but they came back with a nice win against Texas A&M last week. Now, this was probably the game of 2022. I don't even know if there's any probably to it. It was 52-49. It was Tennessee back on the big stage for the first time in 2 decades. It was them rushing the field. Like, this was a gigantic game in 2022. So does that momentum in the Tennessee program carry over to this weekend, or does Alabama say, you had your fun last year, bitches, it's back to normal?
Alabama's going to say, you had your fun, bitches, it's back to normal. And that's not necessarily a knock on Tennessee. It's more of like when you see these scenarios play out with Nick Saban, normally teams do not beat him back-to-back like that unless they are national championship caliber teams. Tennessee is not a national championship caliber team this year. And I think that Nick Saban and Jalen Milroe and everything that they've got, the momentum moving forward, they're going to remind Tennessee who, I know Tennessee fans are going to hate this, but they're going to remind Tennessee who Big Brother is in recent past. And that's going to be an Alabama win. And I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any stretch. I think it'll probably be pretty close for a while. But I think Alabama's going to handle it pretty loudly.
Yeah, I do think that's a very good point about it. Beating Saban once, okay. Beating Saban twice in a row means you've won at his place, and that's where it really separates the men from the boys. The only team I can think of that's done that in his tenure at Alabama is probably, I guess maybe LSU did it, but Ole Miss did it in 2014-15. Beat them in Oxford and then beat them in Tuscaloosa. But the second game was so crazy fluky. The first game wasn't, but the second game was. But that's how good they've been over the last 15 years. That I can think of one team that's done it. So to go back and to win in Knoxville and then to win in Tuscaloosa would be unheard of. And I don't think they got the quarterback to do it. I think maybe in next year, 2 years, Nico will be the quarterback to do it. But Joe Milton is. I don't think Joe Milton's going in Tuscaloosa and beating Jalen Milroe, beating Alabama. I just don't see it.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And it's also going to be, we talked a lot about Jalen Milroe throughout the season. And Joe Milton has kind of the same thing about him where it's like, they can throw a deep ball with perfect accuracy and that's fine. But Jalen Milroe has shown that he can do more than just that. Now, Joe Milton, again, has had flashes where he looks really good, but it's that intermediate pass that, he can't necessarily throw. Jalen Milroe has gotten better throughout the season at it. I don't think that there's a chance Tennessee wins this game. I could be so wrong, but I just don't see it.
The chance is if Tennessee's defensive line gets after Jalen Milroe. So both Alabama and Tennessee have fantastic offensive lines, top 10 in the country for sacks. Alabama, I think, is 130th for sacks allowed. So if Tennessee, I think that'll be the key. If Tennessee can get after Jalen Milroe and he has no time in the pocket, that's the recipe. I don't think it's going to be Joe Milton stepping up. I think it's Jalen Milroe being debilitated.
Fair. I feel like Nick Saban's going to remind everybody who's daddy.
I do. I think so.
Yeah.
But I think if Tennessee were to win the game, I think it's one right there.
All right. I guess we can move into the categories now. I mean, there's other games that are interesting. Ole Miss at Auburn's interesting to me because Ole Miss has to play Hugh Freeze, and he's got that one circled like it's a hooker's number. Michigan's at Michigan State.
Wait, do you have any prediction for Ole Miss Auburn?
Can you imagine the shirts that Ole Miss fans? Well, I guess Ole Miss fans always dress the same way.
Oh, shirts, different shirts. I got shirts already for both sides on that one.
Michigan at Michigan State. Michigan will kill them. I mean, it's amazing. It is amazing that 2 years ago we were there, and 2 years ago Kenneth Walker ran wild, and 2 years ago they had this huge, gigantic victory over Michigan, and 2 years ago they signed Mel Tucker, and now flash forward 2 years later, Michigan has broken through to the playoff twice. Jim Harbaugh's got one of the best teams in the country. They look like an 800-pound gorilla with a chainsaw for a dick. Like that, Michigan looks like the best team ever, and Michigan State looks like they've never played football before.
You talked about Mel Tucker when he got fired, just as like the coaching situation itself is the fastest fall from grace. just in our little bubble, what you just said is actually wild to think about. We were in East Lansing 2 years ago, one of the best shows we had for the college football show. It was packed. People were like literally hanging off of balconies for it. And 2 years later, not even probably 2 years exactly. Well, I guess it's probably the same weekend every week or every year. No one is even giving Michigan State a chance. That's crazy.
If I remember correctly, I think it was actually a little bit later in the year, 2 years ago. I think it was a Halloween weekend. I think.
Yeah, so which is coming up, which is also insane. If you're a Michigan State fan, you look at this rivalry, and obviously Michigan-Ohio State is a bigger rivalry. No, I don't think that anybody outside of East Lansing would disagree with that. But this is one of those games that you still don't want to get embarrassed by. You never want to get embarrassed by the team in your state, regardless of how they feel about another team. And they probably know in the back of their head this is going to get really ugly really fast. And then they might use the excuse, well, our program's in disarray, we don't have our coach, whatever. But still, this is not something that any fan base gets over easily when your in-state rival just kicks the shit out of you.
Imagine the world, though, just if Michigan State wins.
Oh,
college football is going to turn on its head. I know it's a long shot, but just.
Yeah.
Rivalry games, nothing's off the table.
I feel like this one is Michigan State's that bad.
I do. I said the same thing about NC State at the end of the year. You just never know. Bram poo-pooed that.
Well, yes, I'm going to poo-poo every time you act like North Carolina is not going to kill NC State. Okay.
Didn't happen last year.
Casey?
Yes.
If you could go to any game in the country this weekend, where would you go?
Are we taking Penn State, Ohio State off the table?
The table is the table. You can have any table.
The table, I obviously would be going to Penn State, Ohio State, as we've talked about this entire episode. Not only is it the biggest game of the week, it also is the first part of this round robin in the Big Ten East. I believe that whoever wins this game is obviously set up to get a gigantic leg up to the college football playoff. I'm going to go to Ohio State, to Columbus.
Katie, if you could go to any game anywhere in the country this weekend, where would you go?
I'd probably do the same. Little square answer.
I feel like anybody would.
There's a few other ones for entertainment purposes. I'd love to see the...
Oh, you're not going to that game?
No, I think there's somewhere else to go.
Okay, Brandon Walker. You could go to one game. Where are you going?
Well, people like you guys, you have one-track minds. You're only about football. You're only about entertainment. You're only about your own personal gain and everything. Oh, I'm going to go watch this game. It's going to be great. It's going to be tailgating, and it's going to be a great game in Big Ten, yada, yada, yada. First of all, I'm about America, okay?
I know where you're going.
Greatest country on earth, okay? USA, baby, #1. So, where am I going? I'm going to Annapolis, Maryland, or wherever the hell they're playing this game. I'm going to see the Air Force Academy and the Naval Academy fight it out on the football field. And I'm going to salute everybody who's playing because, by God, they're the troops and America #1. But, yeah, no, you guys go watch Ohio State and Penn State.
Well, I'm not going to try to, insult you.
America, Casey.
Yeah,
America.
I'm not going to insult the troops. And I know Captain Cons is probably listening to this podcast right now, and I believe he is going to Baton Rouge for Army at LSU. So he's going to have a hell of a time. We all respect the troops.
He can't go to Air Force Navy because he wasn't smart enough to go to the Air Force Academy or the Naval Academy. Okay.
You're getting a text in 5, 4, 3.
These are the two preeminent military institutions in this country, the Naval Academy and the Air Force Academy. That's who's playing, and that's where I'm going.
Okay. I don't believe you.
Before we get to the next question, let's talk cars.com.
Ooh.
Cars.com, a leading digital marketplace that connects car shoppers with their perfect car, celebrating 25 years this year of helping shoppers research, find inventory, finance, and sell cars wherever life takes you next and whoever you're looking to be. And that could be anything. You could be looking to be a cool superhuman dad like myself and drive a pimped out Jeep. Or you could drive a big fat truck. Or you could drive a nice sporty car. Whatever you want to do, whoever you want to be, Cars.com has that possibility for you. Up to 50,000 cars are added daily to Cars.com. You can shop over 2 million cars for 2 million possibilities. Find your next possibility on Cars.com. Where to next?
I'm still looking to see what kind of mom I'm going to be. What kind of mom is my car going to tell me? Am I going to be a cool mom? Am I going to be a practical mom? I don't know. We have to see.
Probably not.
Before we get too far into the categories. Any thoughts about Florida State Duke?
I would love to sit here and think that's going to be an epic game, but I just don't know. I don't think Riley Leonard is going to play, right? I mean, it still doesn't seem.
It seems like game time decision and, quote, like ability to play, but nothing's set in stone.
If you told me I could get 100% healthy Riley Leonard, I think that was one of the games of the week. I think that defense will still play very well. I think they'll test Florida State and they'll hold Florida State to like 24, 28 points. But without Riley Leonard, I don't think they can keep up. So I would look for Duke to give a spirited effort in the first half and then just kind of fall by the wayside in the second half.
Do you think that if they had Riley Leonard, they would have a chance?
Yes.
I do. I think they're very good.
I think they're very good. And Florida State is also very good, but they have shown that, they're not going to blow out every single team. We saw them only win by 2 against Boston College, which is fine. It was the red bandana game, whatever. But this did lose its luster when Riley Leonard, it looks like he's hurt. I don't know. We'll see. But if Duke can somehow beat them without Riley Leonard, then the ACC is really turned upside down. And Katie, you better be screaming from the rooftops because you're obviously beating Virginia this weekend.
Oh, please take that back.
Stop.
You're beating Virginia this weekend, Katie.
We're not wasting. I'm tired of wasting a 6-0 record on you. Okay, I want to give it to Casey or Jack or me. I want to give it to me. I like to take it myself.
I'd like to take it for myself, too. It feels like it's never going to happen. But, Katie, you're beating Virginia this weekend, okay?
Fucking better.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry,
Brandon.
Look at the UNC history. They drop games they're not supposed to drop every single year.
Stop it, Katie.
Fine, sorry.
Stop it, Katie. And on Saturday night, when we reconvene on this podcast, you need to be annoying. You need to be insufferable. Your team is going to be undefeated.
I did. And
again.
Brandon was like, I hope she loses. No, I generally feel fine for Virginia. It's Georgia Tech I'm more worried about.
Okay. Well.
Casey.
Yes.
Give me an under-the-radar game for this weekend.
An under-the-radar game.
Yeah. You'd like me to go first?
Go for it. Well, I have a couple. I kind of want to know where you're going because I have multiple that I want to talk about. So you go and we'll see if you take it.
In Manhattan, Kansas.
Okay, that's not the one I
have.
had.
A rematch of the 2022 Big 12 Conference Championship game. Now, I don't think either of these teams are all that good. However, they both kind of turned a corner a little. Well, I don't know if Kansas State's turned a corner, but they have found their quarterback. Mm-hmm. They found their quarterback in the future, Avery Johnson. TCU's found some things offensively. They destroyed BYU last week. This has the markings of like a 48-44 classic, just hiding there under the rubble of a disappointing season for TCU. Now, TCU, I think, has gotten thrown out with the bathwater a little bit this year. They're 4-3. Like they're not terrible. Kansas State's 4-2. Whoever wins this game, 5-3 or 5-2, big difference. I think this is going to be a very exciting game down there in Manhattan.
It's a great answer. The reason I didn't think about that game for under the radar was because it feels like the Big 12 is so two-team mindset right now, not just because Oklahoma and Texas are the best teams in the conference, but also because they're leaving, right? Like they're going to the SEC, and because they are the best in the conference, it's like it feels like, okay, well, we'll just figure everybody else out after they're gone. That's what this feels like to me this year, which it sucks because and I know Oklahoma State is looking a lot better, but Kansas State's usually in the mix. It's like I feel like we can all sit here with pretty high confidence and say it's going to come down to Texas, Oklahoma. That's not a bad answer. Clemson, Miami is under the radar because, obviously Miami is going through it right now. We've seen what's happened with them, but it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast with Clemson. If you are a Clemson fan and you see what's been happening in Miami and you see the decisions Mario Cristobal made and you see the way that program feels, you do not lose this game if you're Clemson. You cannot lose this game.
This one was mine as well. It's also, both these teams have 2 losses. So what who do you think needs the win more between Dabo and Mario Cristobal?
I think Miami needs it more from a standpoint of not getting, because Dabo, like Brandon said earlier, Dabo's has set the expectations so high that if they lose a third game, it'd be different if it was this was the game for them to go 4-8. But Mario Cristobal, it's you have Tyler Van Dyke, you look like you have a lot, working in your favor, and then it just won't click. But, Cade Klubnik versus Tyler Van Dyke, 2 guys that we were really looking forward to in the offseason. These teams both have kind of lost their luster. But they still, whoever wins this game still only has 2 losses. So I think this is an under-the-radar game, which is crazy to say that Clemson and Miami are under the radar. If you told me that going into the season, I would tell you you're crazy.
Katie, do you have one?
Yeah, that was mine. I just think it's really interesting to see what both of these fan bases look after this, because it's going to be a shit show if Clemson loses this.
It's going to be a shit show. The other one that I had, which, I mean, I think Washington will be fine, but Arizona State, Washington, it is a late game. Obviously, Washington had that very emotional, highly anticipated matchup last week. So could it be a letdown spot, 10:30, at night, Pac-12 after dark? I doubt it, but it is kind of a game that I think when we're recording the live show on Saturday night, we might be keeping an eye out, but I think Michael Penix Jr. will be fine.
Hope so.
All right, Casey, who would you put on upset alert this weekend?
Well, we talked about the game a little bit, but, Ole Miss Auburn is interesting to me, not just because of Hugh Freeze, because it is at Auburn. Auburn has, they've shown multiple different versions of themselves this year, an offense that can't score at all, and then an offense that, can move the ball. But this is just a weird revenge game. And I know every time a coach goes back, there's always like, this is probably very, very personal for Hugh Freeze, right? We don't necessarily know how good Ole Miss is. I do think Ole Miss will win, but this is not going to be an easy win for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. I do not think so at all. I could see Auburn upsetting them. I mean, Brandon, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I could guess your answer. I mean, I feel like I should, but who do you want to win this game?
And who do you think will?
Who do you want to win, and who do you think will win?
I think Ole Miss will win. Who do I want to win? Y'all got to understand something about me.
Oh, no.
I hate every team in the SEC. I hate Florida. I hate Alabama. I hate Auburn. I hate LSU. I hate Arkansas. I hate A&M. I hate Missouri. I hate Kentucky. I hate Vanderbilt. I hate South Carolina. I hate Ole Miss. I hate Tennessee. I hate Vanderbilt. I hate anybody I missed. Okay? But when it comes to my hate for Auburn and my hate for Ole Miss, my hate for Auburn is generally of a football variety. My hate for Ole Miss pulsates through me. It's everything I've got. So if Ole Miss is playing anybody, I will always root for the other team. If Ole Miss was playing the Osama bin Laden All-Stars, go bin Laden, go. That's
oh boy.
It just is what it is. That's how sick I am in the head.
As he just finished talking about how he's Team USA. It's tough.
Oh.
That's tough.
So could you say that in the same way Oklahoma fans have 2 games every week, you have 2 games every week?
No, I don't really get that because shockingly, I can be reasonable about Ole Miss.
No, you said Ole Miss should win.
Huh?
Yeah, you said Ole Miss would probably win.
No, I recognize they're good. And I recognize Lane Kiffin's a terrific coach. Like, I can be reasonable about who they are and what they are as a football team. Oklahoma fans cannot be reasonable about Lincoln Riley. I mean, that's just impossible.
May I ask one quick follow-up to this hatred level? Where does Hugh Freeze land in there? Because you do hate Auburn, and you hate them a lot. And you made sure when you were, when we were live in Baton Rouge last week, you made sure you told all Auburn fans to kiss your ass. Yeah. You hate Ole Miss, that it pulsates through your body. But where's Hugh Freeze in that?
I might hate Hugh Freeze more than I hate Ole Miss.
Wow.
Why would you want Auburn to win?
Yeah.
Because now I might be like Wicked Witch of the West and like melt in a minute.
That's why I'm saying.
You hope that Bane shows up.
I just want Ole Miss to lose. I haven't thought about it too much. Don't make me think about this too much. Just let somebody lose, okay? Let somebody. Hopefully they go 28 overtimes and they both lose. How about that?
True.
Okay.
Speaking of hate, speaking of hate, you and Missouri Twitter.
Yeah, what the fuck's going on there?
I've just learned that every single fan base has about 50 or 60 guys online that are just miserable fucking cunts, that are just absolute assholes, that are very stupid, very ignorant, are very sensitive, and have no business being public-facing at all and shouldn't speak ever. And Missouri has them just like anybody else. I've done nothing but say Missouri's going to go 10-2, Missouri's going to be very good, Missouri's going to be awesome. But because I correctly picked Missouri to lose to LSU a couple weeks ago, they're all like, oh, you get off our bandwagon. You shut up. Fuck you, Brandon Walker. Your kid's ugly. Like, I don't know if it's that part of the country, because Missouri does touch Arkansas. Missouri does touch, like, Oklahoma. I don't know if that part of the country is just the dumbest part of our country. It's like the fucking it's the dearth of smartness in America. I don't know what it is. But Missouri, the fans I fought with last night, and it's not all Missouri fans. I got 30 DMs saying, I'm a Missouri guy. Sorry, I apologize. But boy, they were fucking dumb. I mean, good Lord.
I've done something on Twitter that I should have done a long time ago where I only get notifications from people that I follow, because once I started tweeting about Dion in Colorado, my mental health was taking a hit. That's a joke, but not really. So Brandon, I was seeing that you were responding a bunch. I was like, well, now I got to definitely go through and see what's going on. These Missouri fans were like, I responded because they were like, well, of course you guys aren't talking about USC's defense when they're the worst. Like, and I'm like, we talk about USC's defense on quite literally, not the basic bitch literally, the definition of literally every single episode. So why don't we say USC has a shitty defense just to make sure we're covering our bases? It was crazy. Missouri fans were losing it on you.
We should do a weekly ranking of Brandon's hate list. Like,
it's significant.
like top
we
5.
have to have
every
voters
week.
like the AP top 25.
Yeah, I'd also like to weigh in on who I think hates him the most, just because I like to, go through it.
Let's give Casey a vote. Let's give everybody a vote.
Yeah, I think we should go through a vote. I will say it's very nice to see, Florida State fans and we really went through it for a while. Especially when Kendall Briles was there. Never forget, Florida State might have been my original hate fan base. We've handshaked emoji over Dumbo Fisher, as Frank the Tank would say. I've mended my fences. Water under the bridge, Florida State.
Katie, do you have an upset alert?
I do. Where's my notes? I think Utah over USC. I don't know if it will qualify as an upset, but I think USC is down right now. Utah senses the blood in the water, and we saw the game plan is out there for how to beat USC. Obviously, I think Caleb Williams will bounce back a bit, but would not be surprised if we see Utah winning that.
Yeah, I go the other way on that one. I think USC is about to come out and flex. They're embarrassed right now. Caleb Williams is embarrassed, and Utah. No Cam Rising, so I think Utah just doesn't have the offense to keep up with them. But we'll see. My upset alert. Were you about to say something, Casey?
Well, I was gonna see if we could transition to the next segment because I'm gonna follow what Katie just said. But first, go to your upset alert, Brandon.
Yeah, transition to the next segment before I've gone into this segment.
Just do it.
I'm trying to find it. I just had it in my, and y'all got to talking, and it.
It's all our fault.
I got it.
I'm saying Miami over Clemson too.
It's Iowa. It's Iowa, number 24, Iowa. So I feel like we've reached a point with Iowa where everybody has looked up, and I'm not making fun of their offensive problems, but they got offensive problems. But everybody's looked up and realized they're 6-1. They've got a chance to go 11-1. They've got a chance to be really good, win the West. I feel like when you don't have an offense and you start to, right when you think, okay, we can do it without the offense. Okay, we're going to go 11-1. That's when you slip up. And this line's a little funny. Minnesota's not been impressive at all. And this line has gone from 6.5 to 3.5. I think that line's funny. I think this game is funny. And I think Iowa, I'm not saying Iowa's going to lose, but I'm saying as far as upset alerts, Iowa better be alert playing Minnesota at home this weekend.
I also noticed in my mentions that you're also going back and forth with Iowa fans again.
I'll be going back and forth with everybody. Casey.
That video's blowing up on TikTok, by the way, of you saying Iowa's going to go 11-1, and what are they going to do? Fire everybody?
Yeah, and Iowa fans got mad at that clip for me saying they're going to go 11-1. That's how smart they are. Okay.
Have you guys seen the total for this game?
What?
The total? That's
32.
Yes, it's 31.5 now.
Okay.
Shut the fuck
It's going to
up.
close below 30, I bet.
Incredible.
Okay. Let's see. Before we get to the players to watch this weekend, the player that we are most excited about, okay, let me get it right. This is the player that we're most excited to watch this weekend, presented by Cars.com. Find your next possibility on Cars.com. Where to next? So Casey Smith, out of all the players, and I want to give you a 5-minute warning. We have 5 minutes left for me to complete this task. What player would you like to see this weekend?
Well, that's why I wanted to double down on what Katie said about USC Utah, but I am very excited to see a Caleb Williams bounce back game. And it's not because, Casey loves USC, Casey loves Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, because what we saw from Caleb Williams in this offense last week was abysmal. It was horrible. It was completely out of character for him. And also, Utah last year was their problem. The reason that USC was not in the college football playoffs last year was solely because of Utah. So I'm excited to see him bounce back. I feel like he's going to have an unbelievable stat line. And the nation really buried him way too fast. And he won the Heisman Trophy last year. He's still going to probably be the number 1 overall pick in the draft next year. And one game, which was horrible. It was horrible. Don't get me wrong. All of a sudden, it's like, well, Caleb Williams isn't that guy. he still is that guy. Caleb Williams is very much still, as the kids would say, him. He's going to have a fantastic game. I don't think that this Utah defense is the same that we saw last year. They don't have Cam Rising at quarterback. I think USC is going to roll them, and I'm excited to see what he does and then what he paints on his fingernails after, and that kid that tried to fight him. I hope he has a bad day.
Katie, what player are you most excited to watch?
I am most excited to see Drew Aller. I still think Ohio State's going to win, but this is the moment that if everything Brandon said about Penn State happens to be true, and odds are we'll find out, this is Drew Aller's moment. This is is he the guy? Is he not the guy? If Penn State wins, it's because he has a fantastic day. Their defense is great. This is a put up or shut up game for him.
Yeah, that's the right answer. And I will just roll into mine. That is the right answer, is Drew Aller. If they are to win at Ohio State, it has to be because Drew Aller picks them up on offense and says, boys, we got a great defense. I'm taking us into this 100,000-seat stadium, and we're walking out of there with a win. And he cements himself as the guy unquestioned at Penn State and probably unquestioned in the Big Ten at that point, although he'll have to answer the J.J. McCarthy question later, I guess. But Drew Aller is it. I would even go so far as to say maybe Drew Aller and Kyle McCord, because McCord is at home. He's got this big situation, too. He's facing a good defense, too. Like, whichever quarterback stars the most in that game probably wins the game. So I would say the quarterbacks in Penn State, Ohio State.
It is very reminiscent of the Oregon-Washington game last week with the quarterback situation, where it was like whoever wins this. Now, granted, those two are not on the Heisman list near as much as Bo Nix and Michael Penix are, but it's very reminiscent.
Brandon, how do you feel about Mississippi State, Arkansas?
Oh, just relax. We're going to get killed. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Things are going good. I like it. I like things.
I see your confidence level is high. At least Arkansas fans also hate their coach, so they won't be as annoying as they were last year.
I hated my coach.
You don't not.
Okay, let me take this back. At least you have the fact that Arkansas hates their coach. I don't mean that you also hate your coach. I'm saying, like, it's not like Arkansas fans of last year where they're just ready to pounce on anybody.
I don't even know why we're playing this season, to be honest.
Your coach died. R.I.P.
Good morning. You guys are so brave.
We're going to get out of here now. I'm going to go eat my Chick-fil-A. That's them two. Thank you. And we'll be back Saturday Night Live at around midnight, something like that. That's Unnecessary Roughness.